Welcome to the podcast of St. Basil the Great Catholic Church in Brecksville, Ohio, with homilies, talks, and interviews relevant to your Catholic faith. God bless you and enjoy.
Well, Gregory, welcome to the new studio here at St. Basil.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Looking good down here.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so we have the name of it. It's called Star of the Sea Studio.
I love that.
All right, so it's an ancient title, mainly from the medieval times of the Blessed Mother. And
Beautiful.
The idea is that, she guides us to the foot of the cross, where all of the healing comes from. So she guides us, and so that's what we want all of our digital ministries to be doing, is to guide people right to the foot of the cross, where all the love of the heart of Jesus is poured out. So,
Amen.
So we're glad to have you here. And, Gregory, you hold a special place for me as the pastor here, because you were one of the first people that came on board in my time here.
Yeah.
And so you've been here about 4 years?
Yeah, so it's my fourth year now, 3 years fully. So
Awesome.
Time is flying.
It really is. So what we're going to do is we should have some great conversations and talk and kind of get people to know you a little bit, and then a little bit of not just your heart, but also a little bit of your knowledge. I don't know that people know how much study and hard work you've put in to making sure that you're not just expressing your heart and your talent, but also the knowledge of the faith to share musically. And so we want to do that as well. But I want to back up, because some people have seen your last name on paper and don't even try to pronounce it.
Yes, that is tough.
So tell us your last name.
It's Paparizos.
Paparizos.
Paparizos, yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you.
It's Greek, so yeah.
And so, okay, so you're Greek. So your mom or dad?
My dad.
That makes sense, obviously.
Yep.
Your dad's Greek. And in the office, I like teasing you,
Yeah.
but the Greek name for your grandfather is?
Papu.
And your Greek name for your grandmother?
Yaya.
Yaya and Papu.
Exactly.
That means I'm going to grandma and grandpa's.
Exactly. And it's funny because I'll just refer to them in conversations and assume people know what that means, but they have no idea.
No. The only reference I have is there was that restaurant in Parma named Papu's.
Exactly.
And I used to go there when I was at St. Charles. So what a great reference.
Yeah.
And so, in 5 years of being here, 600 new families have joined the parish.
Wow.
And so because of that, a lot of them don't know the history, 65 years old parish, but also the history of you. And you grew up here, and really your current job, being music minister here at St. Basil's, was born of your experience of being a parishioner here. So can you help explain to the people a little bit, like growing up at the parish and watching the music and things? What was that like? Draw us into little Gregory.
I would love to. So this is my home parish. This is my home, I should say. I went to school here at St. Basil, St. Michael's, grew up here. So many memories throughout the years. Father Walt, of course, Father Dave, so many priests who have formed my life very deeply. And then, of course, Nancy and Stephanie, who have been the music ministers here prior to me coming on board for about 20 years. So they were here a while. I actually was doing the math this morning. I've been playing here at St. Basil for 13 years, which is more than half of my life as a 24-year-old, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's wild.
And so I was in the 6th grade when I started playing here, and I met Nancy and Stephanie, and they brought me on to the kids' choir. I would accompany the choir and play with Nancy. She would play the piano, and I would play the keyboard. And so I kind of grew up working with them and knowing them. And then, of course, on Sundays, hearing them pray their music and play, Nancy especially playing the piano.
Would you sit over there, or were you just listening?
Yeah, so every Sunday, I would have my parents, and we would sit right behind Nancy in the chairs over there, and I would watch her play the piano. And I always said this, and I tell her this to this day, those were my piano lessons growing up. So I never took a lesson before. When I was in the 2nd grade, I started playing our piano at our house, watching a ton of YouTube videos, kind of teaching myself how to play. And so then we would come to Mass on the weekends. And this is a big part of, I think, my story as a piano player and just a person in general. I had a lot of mentors to look up to. Nancy, of course, being top on the list. And so every Sunday I got to hear, in my mind, the most brilliant piano player play on the weekends, and I would watch her play. And the crazy part is, she would play the piano, of course, and I would have the music at home because she had given it to me. And I would go home and be like, okay, what she played was not on the music. She's making it up. She's improvising, adding all these beautiful elements to it. Because if we were playing what was exactly on the music, it would be very, very boring. And so she's a musical genius in my mind. Because I know what she does. And
I'm going to pause you just for a
beautiful.
second. First off, two things you said that are amazing. One, you're self-taught based on watching and imitating, whether it's YouTube or Nancy.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, for people who don't know who Nancy is, I just want to give a shout out. Nancy is Stephanie's mom, and Nancy and Stephanie together were a mother-daughter duo here for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And really, Nancy knew that Gregory was graduating college, and she knew that out of great humility and service to the parish, if she didn't sacrifice her role and bring Gregory on right then and out of college, she was afraid we were going to lose him. And so she probably retired several years before she really needed to, but did it because she loved St. Basil's and knew that the future was in good hands with Stephanie and Gregory. And so it's just a good image of serving the church, that we give our whole lives, but we have to make sure it's not our ego. And Nancy was a prayer warrior, maybe prayed even more than she played, to be honest. She always has prayer books, and she loves the Blessed Mother and Jesus so much. She always made sure that, like, whatever's best for St. Basil's, whatever's best for the people here. And so she knew, boy, for longevity and to make sure we didn't lose you as a gift, she retired, sacrificed, and said, so that way Gregory could come on board. And so she said, Father, I think you need to really talk to him. I think he's the right hire after me. And so that's just giving a background of the heart and the idea of how great Nancy is.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, because that's the most important part of the story. And I tell her this every day, every time I see her. It was the greatest gift I've ever been given in my whole entire life. She gave up. This was her life. She loved this place, and she loved doing what she did every weekend, and she gave it up. And that's a lesson that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life and imitate. But yeah, it's the greatest gift I've ever been given.
It's really beautiful. It really is. And, you know, and the beauty and the love of the music ministry here at St. Basil's, of course, is, I would say, basically unparalleled in our diocese. It's amazing. I mean, just not only the talent, but the love and the joy of the choirs. And there's so much, even as I walk by, I obviously don't have much time to hang out with the choirs, but just to walk by, you can just feel the warmth exuding from when the choirs are gathered, and the joy when they're working with all of you. And you guys have done so much, but, you know, to hone in particularly on the things that you have done. I mean, you know, you came on board, so you started playing at all the masses, funerals, weddings, Sundays, weekdays, etc., and all these great things. But, like, for you, as you became a music minister, not just helping out, but you really stepped into this role, just some things that I've always wondered as a music minister, like, how much of it are you able to really pray while you're playing? Or where does, like, you know, because you're at the Mass, so where does your heart and mind, if you don't mind me probing your inner life, where does it go while you're playing the music? Are you able to worship, or is it more technical, or does it change? What's that like for you?
That's a great question. And I definitely say there's been a personal growth in my own journey. The first year I started, I'll be honest, it was tough because I was trying to balance that technical aspect of the job and getting things done with the heart of the job. It definitely takes time to grow into, and I did, and now I feel like I'm a totally different person than I was 3 years ago, which is weird to say. But for me, now it's all prayer. Like, me playing the piano on the weekends is my prayer. That's how my heart sings. Some people are gifted vocalists who sing beautifully. We all have our gifts, but the piano is how my heart sings and prays. So
it's beautiful. It's really great. And, you know, as you've continued to pray, and I can say as a priest, I can tell the difference of someone who just does music, like hits the key at the right time on the piano and makes the right noise, versus someone who's really praying. You can tell, you can see the fruit of you and Stephanie's prayer and love in the choirs and how wonderful they are here. So you can tell the difference, and that's a real gift. It's what makes you a music minister and not just a musician.
Exactly.
And I think that's really important.
And really the most beautiful part about it is, and this is what Nancy and Stephanie taught me, and what we are carrying on now, is this wasn't something we came up with, this idea of church music, sacred music. It's been passed on from generation to generation, especially by our popes, who've spoken a lot about it in some of the most beautiful churches' liturgy documents. And I've been reading some of them, and they're gorgeous, but there's so much heart to what's done. It's not just performative. We're playing music to make people happy. That's really missing the mark if we think about it as a performance. It's a prayer, and that's what gets to the heart of it. And that's what we try to do every weekend, every funeral, every wedding. every Mass we play.
You just mentioned funerals and weddings, and at St. Basil's, we probably do about 15 to 20 weddings a year, and we do about 75 funerals a year, more or less, depending on the year, what's going on. And as you've been now experiencing those more consistently, obviously, as a minister of the church, what stands out for you at St. Basil's, whether it's the people, the music, the choirs, your experience of liturgy? What has been speaking to you about particularly weddings and funerals?
It's really beautiful to witness these moments in people's lives. You can go on a given Saturday, like this is what a day in the life of Gregory and Stephanie looks like. A Saturday morning we wake up and we play a funeral at 10 a.m., then a wedding at 2 o'clock, and then a vigil mass at 5 o'clock. So really going from like the lows at a funeral to the highs of life, a wedding, and you kind of see the in-between of all of that. Some things I've learned, family is very, very important. And that's who sticks with you no matter what. And whether that's your biological family or your parish family, family is everything. And it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of those services for each one of them.
Yeah. It was when we have an online form when people register at the parish, we added a question maybe 4 years ago. Why did you choose St. Basil's? And I asked Tommy Dome to add that to the sheet because I was curious. We were having so many people register. I'm like, what's going on, or why they? And there's several that get listed quite a bit. One is the music for sure. People love the music here. Some of it's the priests. They like the priests here. They seem happy, which is great. And Father Jeff and I certainly tease each other a lot and try to bring that kind of brotherhood together into it. But more time than not, I see people on that list saying, the people here. Yeah. There's something about St. Basil's. It's wonderful. It's, and I knew that coming in, and I was really, really worried because I didn't know how much of that was tied to Father Waltart, right, which is just a humble man. And I was like, oh, man, I hope I don't ruin that because that is a great thing about St. Basil's. But what's been neat for me to see is I'm thinking it actually might have been the other way around. I'm thinking the people formed and pulled out of Father Walt his characteristics. Wasn't so much that he put it into them because it's continued and it continues to grow, and everyone who joins or goes through now OCIA to become Catholic and stays at the parish, they continue to speak about what you're speaking of, that family touch, that warmth, that kindness, that I'm here for you. What can I do for you? What do you need? And it's a real gift. And it's the way that we take kind of the universal church, Jesus' bride or the mystical body notion, and we bring it to right here in little Brecksville, Ohio. And it's a great, great gift. And you've been talking about how the parish has touched you all these years.
Even beyond music, just being formed with prayer. All of the priests, like I mentioned before, you really grow as a human here at St. Basil. And we were talking about this earlier. We had a wedding this past Saturday, and someone came up to us after Mass, and they said, what did they say? I'm losing it now.
They said if
I was a parishioner here at St. Basil, I would be a really good Catholic. And it's so true. And our parish is full of really good Catholics. And one of my mentors and idols is Bishop Robert Barron. And he says, what our world needs is more great Catholic doctors and Catholic teachers and us going out into the world evangelizing. And that's really what we do here. We're fed at the table of the Lord, and it's a beautiful thing. We're surrounded by beautiful liturgies, but then we go out into the world. And I think that's the most beautiful part of our community here. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Bishop Barron, and he's one of the great teachers of our American church. But I know that you, for the last year or so, Stephanie had read a lot of them before, but now you becoming a minister, I think you and I talked, and there was a real eagerness on your part to learn more. So I know you've been pouring in to the church's documents. And before we get into it a little bit, it's important that everyone knows that the church kind of doesn't just say, figure it out. We basically have had people think through it, whether it's saints, theologians, bishops, etc., on any aspect of the church, and there's documents to help guide us. Now, every document needs applied and interpreted to a real common ground, like in Brecksville, what's that going to look like? But you've been studying a lot of the church's documents on music and what music is meant to be, what it's not meant to be. And as you've read that and you've kind of gone through things, what are some things you want to share with people who, A, didn't know they existed, maybe those documents, but B, what is the church's real vision, in particular for, let's say, music at a Sunday Mass, because that's the most people's experience of you.
So like, what is the church's vision for music helping out at the Mass or being a part of the Mass?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the church gives us 3 criteria by which every Mass should look like and what the music should be for that Mass. And it's
Good-looking priest.
Good-looking priest,
nice.
amazing homilies. It's in the catechism, actually. And it's beauty, expressive of prayer, unanimous participation, and a solemn character of the liturgy.
Can you say those 3 again for everyone?
So it's basically beauty, participation, and the character, preserving the character of the liturgy. Nice. So a Good Friday liturgy should look like a Good Friday liturgy, and a Sunday Mass should look different from that to preserve the character of what's going on in that liturgy. But going back to the first one, beauty, it should be a thing of beauty. And I'll be honest, the Catholic Church gets a bad rap sometimes of beautiful music in churches, and it's sad. And I'll tell some of my friends, I'll be like, oh, I play at a church, and I love doing it. It's my dream. And they're like, really? That's your dream? I'm like, yes, come to St. Basil, come and see. You'll see why. Sure. And it's, once again, been passed on to us, and we're blessed here, but making a thing of beauty. And so that's what me and Steph try to aim for in everything we do, is this beautiful. We pour our hearts into every Mass, every service, anything we do, planning the music. Every song is handpicked by me or Steph to help enhance the liturgy and bring beauty to the Mass. The second characteristic is unanimous participation, is what they say. And I think what they're hinting at here is what was found in Vatican II, active and full participation in the liturgy. So people are supposed to participate. In Vatican II, that's when it changed the vernacular. Prior to that, it was all in Latin. So people are encouraged to participate. And so that's another thing we try to include every weekend, songs people know. Something else I'll mention too, which is cool, and people might not realize this, like as much as me and Steph want to plan or think, oh, this is a really good song, the final arbiter of that is all of you at home. When we hear you singing at Mass, we're like, oh, okay, people are liking this. When we see the smiles on your face, when we get emails from you saying, oh, I love that, reflection song, that's kind of what informs a lot of our decision moving forward. We try out a new song on a weekend and we hear really good feedback from all of you, or people like singing it. It's singable. And so we'll try it again and do it again. It's a constant process of learning and experimenting and trying new things, surrounded around you so you could be able to participate in the liturgy. And then that last characteristic, preserving the character of those designated liturgies. Like I mentioned, a Good Friday should sound like Good Friday, and a Sunday or Easter morning should sound like Easter morning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's really, first off, just the fact that you have no notes in front of you and that you could just remember those things, and it shows me how much you care about this and how much you really love this. Also, lets everyone know how brilliant you are, which I know you're going to shy away from, but you taught yourself piano. You now memorize these documents. Yeah, you get quite gifted.
Not memorizing.
So you just did it. You just
a little bit.
You can't say
not
you
much.
Didn't memorize. But you brought up an interesting point. So maybe for the sake of maybe for some fun, like pushing in a little bit. Like, let's imagine that someone out there, their voice sounds more like, a car crash than a symphony. And so and they're like, oh, I'm supposed to sing. And they're like, I don't really like, what do you do? Like, some people are Stephanie singing and some people are not. And so,
exactly.
What are the people who are like, I can't sing very well? What are they meant to do at the Mass? Is it okay that they don't? Can they just enjoy it interiorly? Or do they have to push through and annoy everyone else around them?
Exactly.
What are they supposed to do?
So as I was preparing for this, I brought a quote. And it's awesome. So this is what one of the church documents says about this very thing. It was after the Vatican II document, one they released specifically on music to address this question of active and full participation in the Mass. And people were confused by that after that document had come out and saying, like, what are people supposed to be singing? Like, there was confusion, apparently. And this is what it said. The faithful should be taught to unite themselves interiorly to what the ministers or choirs sing, so that by listening to them, they may raise their minds to God. And then it goes on, the next sentence is, at the same time, one cannot find anything more religious and more joyful in sacred celebrations than a whole congregation expressing its faith in devotion and song. And so I think that first part of the quote really answers the question. It's really listening to what your heart wants, in a sense. Like you said, some people are gifted vocalists. We're blessed by so many here at St. Basil who sing with us. Me, I am not a blessed vocalist. Like I said before, my heart sings by playing the piano. So I would suggest find what makes your heart sing. Whether that's, truly taking in the liturgy, contemplating the mysteries interiorly. That's beautiful, and that makes your heart sing. Sing like that. When I'm at a different church or I'm on vacation or something, I'll sing like a little bit lightly in the background, but I'm not going to belt out sing because I know I don't have a good voice, either, so I'm not supposed to be. But I just pray the words that are being sung with the ministers, and by that motion, I'm trying to raise my mind to God, and it works, and I feel a connection to Him in those moments.
I love what you just said. Is like I know it sounds strange, but like I wonder how many of us could stop throughout the Mass and ask themselves the question, am I praying right now? I think we can get in such a routine of like, well, I'm standing when I'm supposed to stand. They're talking. I'm listening to the Word of God, but not really, because I'm just waiting for the homily where it kind of begins to make sense in my daily life. I pay attention to that. Then I wait, and then I get the Eucharist, and then I kind of hang out with other families, and then I go home. And it's like, well, what would it look like to actually pray throughout it? To let the symbols, and symbols are words and gestures and colors, etc., to touch you and communicate something to you interiorly and open you to move to God. And that church, that quote you read, the church has such a rich understanding of the interiority of each person.
Exactly.
That really, when you're at Mass, your interior life is meant to be very engaged. Now, you have kids and everything's going on. There's a lot that can pull you from that interior place, but to just check in with it often. Or, I noticed this happening a lot, like when you do a second communion hymn, right? So first communion is usually everyone's receiving. You guys usually start the second hymn right after they're done receiving. And it usually tends to be a little bit more gravitas, maybe a little bit more beauty or something like that, I would say. And oftentimes I look out and people aren't singing, but their eyes are closed, or people are wiping away tears, or some people just have a big smile on their face out of delight. And what you can see is the body is expressing and revealing what's going on interiorly. And that's a really stunning moment to see that happen. And sometimes it happens not even just with words, but just the instrumental music that you do at different seasons of the year. And we spoke a lot about words, and our choirs are amazing, but I noticed like you're playing the organ a little bit more. I couldn't help but notice that. Is that a new hobby, or is there something going on there? Because I can notice that just being introduced a little bit more than normal. I was curious what's going on there.
A couple of things. I personally like the organ. It's a beautiful instrument. But also in reading some of these documents, the church places a lot of gravitas on the organ. The top goes to the human voice. That's what's said in all of these documents. The human voice is superior to any instrument. And as an instrumentalist who doesn't sing, that feels a little weird. But I get it. It's because, song is connected to words in the most beautiful way. But underneath the human voice, the church places the organ. For one reason, it is supposed to mimic a human voice like that. But in these documents, it says the organ adds grandeur and splendor to our religious celebrations. It's to be held in high esteem. That's what our church envisions for, Catholic sacred music. And so, a little bit of that, a little bit of just what's the Spirit calling me to at a given Mass. Some weekends I'll play a closing song on the piano. I don't know why, but I just choose that because that's what I'm feeling like I should. Or play it on the organ for some reason. And so, it's just a constant asking the Holy Spirit.
Well, I love that. I love that you said you try to listen to the Holy Spirit and you pray so much. Don't ever lose that. As a priest, as your pastor, as your boss, just don't ever lose that. That's really, really important for all of us. And I'm thinking too about like throughout the scriptures, we hear the mentioning of music and song. So you hear
Very
like
good.
the phrase, sing a new song to the Lord is a song that we know, sing a new song unto the Lord. But it actually comes from the Psalms and things. The Psalms is a whole
Exactly.
book of songs, really, that tradition would tell us that David wrote many of them, this and that. But there's music actually referenced throughout the Old Testament, the New, and then even the book of Revelations, heaven. There's
Amen.
songs happening. We believe angels are singing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of different ways in which music, when God reveals things, he tends to show us that music is a big part of the interplay between his saving love and our response. We call Mass a celebration, and so there's meant to be music that helps lifts us up to God. And so it really is a part of our whole faith.
Going back to that quote, sing a new song to the Lord. You mentioned this a lot. St. Augustine is known to have said, the church is ever ancient and ever new. And that's something me and Steph really take to heart in our music ministry here. Every weekend we try to pick songs that are ever ancient, traditional hymns, and ever new, the songs that are being composed. And I believe, in my own opinion, it comes from that quote, sing a new song to the Lord. If we take that at its word, sing a new song. Don't sing an old song, but sing a new song because our heart wants to sing. When we've met Jesus, when we encountered him as a person, our heart wants to sing.
Amen. Yeah. You know, it's funny you said St. Augustine has a lot of great lines on music and things. One of the things he says, singing is a lover's thing. And I love that. It sounds like
That's
a cool like coffee house mug or t-shirt or something. But like singing is a lover's thing is a way of just saying that when you've fallen in love with God, you don't want to just say, hey, you're so good. You want to really sing it. You want to belt it out. Just like you would do like if you fell in love. Like love songs make sense and things like that. And
Exactly.
So, you know, Gregory, I know I could talk to you for hours, but I just hope that people can really hear first off your heart. They know that you're a son of the parish, and now you're helping me in my shepherding of the parish. But above all, they can hear that music isn't just entertaining at Mass. It's helping us enter into the greatest beauty of the Mass, which is Christ's saving love. That as Jesus made a gift of himself to people who totally didn't deserve it, but out of his great affection for us, gives himself in love. That is the most beautiful thing, and that's made present again in the Eucharist. And all of our words and gestures and songs are meant for us to enter in, celebrate, offer, and receive that, and then become that beautiful song to the world. So I want to thank you for everything you and Stephanie do, and just that prayerful side of your heart. I know so many people are grateful for you, and I am as well. And so thanks for entering into the new studio and being a part of this whole podcast. We look forward to having you on again.
Oh, I can't wait.
God
Thanks,
bless.
Father.
We hope this podcast blessed you. If something touched your heart, we encourage you to take it to prayer. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to be notified of future podcasts, and feel free to share it with a friend. We would love to keep in touch at basilthegreat.org. Until next time, St. Basil the Great, pray for us.